365 Sports.
Well, wow. We are back for another episode here at 365 Sports Mizzou. My name is Davis Wilson, the host of the show, and I've got a lot to talk about. Last night was something else for Missouri basketball. I have a hard time kind of figuring out exactly how I feel about the result of this game. As I'm watching it, and kind of keeping notes. I had a lot to say. At one point in the second half, Missouri looked really good, and I had to kind of rethink what this podcast is going to talk about, because Missouri does win. They get the win against Vanderbilt, but it's by one, and they were about 2 inches away from losing the game outright somehow. I was thinking about when I covered Mizzou football 2 seasons ago, and as a writer, you'd kind of your job, you have to live tweet and you have to watch a game. You also have to be writing. Like, the deadline for these game stories is 5 minutes after the game ends, so you have to be writing throughout the game. And so sometimes I would have a story going, and then Missouri goes on a run or starts losing or something. You have to redo the whole story. So I can only imagine what the beat writers of this game were writing as this second half unfolded, because Missouri went into halftime leading by 6 points, 36-30, after a really slow start where it felt to me like, okay, Missouri's going to lose and their season will be over, because Vanderbilt got on them quickly, took an early lead that, just right off the bat, they were up 9-3, and you're thinking, okay, Missouri's not really scoring. It's like 5 minutes into the game, I think they had 3 points. But Missouri comes back. They start to play really well, and it is guys like Jaden Stone playing really well offensively. He shot the ball great in this game. Missouri's defense, I thought, stepped up in a really big way later in the first half and then the beginning of the second half. So Missouri overcomes the early deficit, goes up by 6 points at halftime. They're on a run. They're playing very well. Second half starts, and they look even better than they looked at the end of the first half. They go up, and they take hold of a 20-point lead, and everything's clicking. They're hitting threes. Everyone's hitting threes. Mark Mitchell hit a three. Teal Barrett hit a couple threes. Jaden Stone's making a bunch of threes. Trent Pierce knocking down threes. The arena sounds loud. Anthony Robinson even made a three. Like, the arena is loud. The fans are into it. And then somehow, out of nowhere, and you knew it was coming, Vanderbilt goes on a run. And I knew a Vanderbilt run was coming, but I assumed that run would be, okay, they cut it to 8. So there's 8 minutes left. Missouri's up by 20. Maybe they'll cut this thing to 8 by the time this game's over or something. They'll cut it to within single digits, but Missouri will hold it off. Vanderbilt cuts this thing to 1. They cut this thing to 1. Missouri completely fell apart. I want to get the negatives out of the way first, because I do think overall this is a win. Missouri had to have this game, and they won. And for 32 of the 40 minutes played, they were the better team. They were actually the much better team. So I have a lot of good things to say, but I want to talk about the negatives first, because Missouri almost lost a game that they had no business losing, and they were closer than you think to losing. The last shot, rolled all the way around the rim before falling out. The negatives are this. Missouri defensively played a really great game up until that 8-minute mark, and they let everything go crazy. Tyler Tanner, a guy I talked about yesterday as a threat to this Vanderbilt team, started to score a lot. He averages 18.5 points a game. He scored 27 points. A lot of his damage was done not only in the second half, but in the 8 minutes left in the second half. Like, he caught fire. And defensively, Missouri just fell apart. If I don't know. It was looking really good. They were making things hard for Vanderbilt every possession, and things got out of control. Vanderbilt started to hit shots. Missouri even did a really good job getting Devin McLaughlin out of the game. Who's another guy I talked about. He picked up 2 flagrant ones, which why is 2 flagrant ones not equal to 1 flagrant 2? Not that him being ejected from the game would have made any difference because he was on the bench for a lot of the second half. But 3 flagrant ones equals 1 flagrant 2. That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that. Devin McLaughlin, though, had 2 flagrant ones, so he had to sit a lot of the second half. And at that point, when he picked up a second flagrant one, it felt like Missouri had every bit of momentum in the world. They shot 4 free throws, made 3 of them, went up by 21, and then Vanderbilt somehow grabbed the momentum back and cut this thing all the way down. And I really didn't think Missouri was going to be able to win. It just felt like nothing Missouri did was going to work. It's unbelievable to look at this box score and see that Vanderbilt outscored Missouri in the second half because Missouri was so good for the first 12 minutes of the second half. They were making shots. Everyone was, just felt like everything was clicking, and they were going to get a dominant quadrant 1 win. And they do still get the win. It's not in the way that any Missouri fan could have expected. And I walked out of the room. I walked away from the game, and I thought, honestly, my thought was that was upsetting. I know and now after sleeping on it and after having thought about it more, I feel very good about the win. I think it's a good win, and they did what they needed to do for the first 32 minutes. They did enough to where however terribly they played in the last 8 minutes didn't matter because they took care of business in the first 32. But immediately after the game, I was like, that was disappointing. Thank God we won, because if Missouri lost that game, I don't think I could watch another game this season. It would have been the worst loss of the Dennis Gates era. It would have been one of the worst losses you could imagine at this point in the season for a bubble team who needs every win. But the point is they didn't lose, and I still felt like that wasn't great. And it took a little bit of time for me to, this morning now I thought about it as I'm preparing for this show. I'm thinking, they won, and a lot of guys played really well, and like they're in a much better spot than they were this time yesterday in terms of making the NCAA tournament. So the negatives are this: they turned the ball over 7 times in the last 8 minutes, just awful. Anthony Robinson Jr., who I thought had a decent game, particularly offensively, turned the ball over like twice in that stretch. Trent Burns, who also played pretty well, had a bad turnover. Missouri got careless. Vanderbilt really started to speed the game up. That was the main thing. They started putting a ton of pressure on Missouri. They made shots. And ultimately, though, Missouri was able to get to the free throw line and go up by 4. I think it was they were up by 3. Anthony Robinson Jr. went to the line, up by 4. Up by 3. He makes one. Then they go up by 4. Vanderbilt runs down the court, sinks a 3. So with about 2 seconds left, Mark Mitchell inbounds the ball. Missouri has no plan. This is where it was really concerning. Missouri has no plan to get the ball in. They're only up by 1 at this point. There is time for something terrible to happen. There's no plan. Mark Mitchell, for some reason that I cannot figure out, I've watched it so many times, I don't know where he was trying to pass the ball. He throws it to half court, like beyond half court. He just chucks it like a quarterback. And of course, no one's really there. Vanderbilt intercepts it. Throws up a miracle shot from half court immediately after catching it. It hits the rim, rolls around the rim, I swear it went in and went out. But the important part for Missouri is that it went out and they won. But I cannot believe that was they had no sort of game plan for getting the ball in. All they had to do was get the ball in, and they would have gotten fouled, and it would have taken a couple tenths of a second off. They could have gone back up by 3, and then at that point, I'm not sure Vanderbilt had any more timeouts to use, so it would have taken a miracle. Instead, Mark Mitchell just throws it up in the air. I wonder if he thought there was like 0.3 seconds left or something like that. So even if Vanderbilt touched the ball, it wouldn't have mattered. But Vanderbilt had plenty of time to catch and shoot the ball. We saw they did, and it nearly went in. They won, and they could have won, but Missouri does walk away with the win. So the negatives are that Missouri played 8 minutes of some of the worst basketball I've seen them play this season. The positive is they played 32 great minutes before that, and they did enough to win the game. Yesterday, I talked about some of my opinion, the keys to the game were Jaden Stone being a really a force in scoring the ball. And he was. He led the team in scoring with 19 points on 6 of 13 shooting. Trying to find my notes. 6 of 13 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3, led the team in threes. Didn't miss a free throw, was 3 of 3. Led the team in rebounding with 7. Made a lot of really big shots. Played really hard. I thought that was great. T.O. Barrett returned to form. That's another thing that I talked about. Apparently, he was going through like a flu-like illness, and he scored 16 points in 32 minutes. Only shot 3 of 10 from the field, but got to the line 9 times and made 8 of his attempts from the free throw line. Had 9 assists, only 2 turnovers, 2 steals. In the second half when Missouri was really streaking, he made a 3 where I thought that's the dagger. It just felt like that was going to be it. So he played well. Trenton Pierce was great, had 16 points on 6 of 9 shooting. More and more, I feel like he's becoming one of Missouri's most important players. Obviously, he missed a huge chunk of the first part of the season. It feels like he's really got his legs under him now, and he's playing some really great basketball. He had 16 points to go along with 2 steals. Mark Mitchell had 10 points, didn't shoot well at all, was 2 of 9 from the field. Made a 3, though. One of his 2 free field goals was a 3, which is incredible. It was 5 of 8 from the free throw line. Led the team in assists, though. This is his second time in 3 games where he has had finished with 9 assists, I believe. He had 10 points and 9 assists, which, again, is team leading. He had 3 rebounds, 2 turnovers, a steal. One of the turnovers was that crazy pass he made at the end of the game. So Missouri wins this game. Also, not only do they win it, but they win it without Mark Mitchell really doing too much, which I think it's good. Anthony Robinson Jr. only played 16 minutes off the bench. It felt like the rotation was they were really kind of. Really they only truly played. They played 9 guys. Technically, Nicholas Randall played a minute. Jacob Cruz played 7 minutes. But really, it was more like a 7-man rotation. And, Anthony Robinson didn't play a ton, but he scored 13 points on 3 of 4 shooting, was 6 of 7 from the free throw line, had 3 rebounds, turned the ball over 3 times, which is really bad, but had a steal. Offensively, at least scoring the ball wise, that's now 2 straight games in double digits. Scoring, his confidence at least could be coming back at a good time. I think there are positives to be had, even though he struggled with turnovers late in the game. One of the most surprising parts of this game, though, was Trent Burns. He played 18 minutes. Sean Phillips got in foul trouble early. Trent Burns had to come in. He played 18 minutes, only scored 3 points, but rebounded. He had 7 rebounds, tying the team lead. He had 1 block, although it felt like he should have had more because his presence made it very difficult for Vanderbilt. He had 1 turnover. I I think otherwise, though, he played the best we've seen Trent Burns play. Those were his best minutes I've seen from Trent Burns. I mean, I think that they needed someone to step up when Sean Phillips wasn't working. He turned the ball over 3 times in just 16 minutes and had 4 fouls. Sean Phillips was bad in this game, especially to start. Really, bad start. Trent Burns comes in and plays really well. I mean, he's not scoring a ton, but his size, his length is like such a deterrent. And his defense was great. He affected Vanderbilt offensively down low, and so that's not a guy I really expect to continue to have a huge role on this team. But it is comforting to know that if Sean Phillips gets in trouble and you need someone to be big down there, Trent Burns can do it, and it's also encouraging for the future. Confidence, I think, is such a big thing for him to get in there and play some good minutes. That's huge. So I think you can feel pretty good about that. That was probably the most surprising part. I think he had a plus 19 plus minus, which was the highest on the team. So his impact was felt. The scoring effort here for Missouri, very spread out. T.O. had 16, Trent Pierce had 16, Mark Mitchell had 10, Jaden Stone had 19, Anthony Robinson had 13. So that is 5 guys in double digits. Really efficient. Missouri was 44% from the field. They were 50% from 3. They were 10 of 20 from 3. Really good. 25 of 32 from the free throw line, 78%. Really great. They were out-rebounded 37 to 34. They had 5 more assists than Vanderbilt, though. Turnovers, they had 14 turnovers. 7 of them were in the last 8 minutes of the game. They had not turned the ball over once in the first 12 minutes of the second half, and then they turned it over 7 times very quickly. So that was not good. What else can we say about the stats here? Missouri's largest lead was 21. They led for 80% of this game. They scored 26 points in the paint, 14 points off the fast break. Like, a lot of this feels very good, but again, just somehow they let this slip away, and it's only a 1-point win. But a win is a win, right? You have to recognize that a win is a win. Let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to talk about what this win means for Missouri in terms of March Madness tournament. We'll see.
Super Bowl 60 deserves a sportsbook built for the moment. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60, puts you right in the center of the biggest game of the year. And when anything can happen during the Super Bowl, DraftKings has your back with early exit. If a player goes down in the first half, you still get paid out in cash immediately once your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. I personally can't wait to see the matchup of the new kid, Drake May, and Sam Darnold, the veteran, in it to prove himself. New to DraftKings? New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Or download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code SHOWPICK. That's code SHOWPICK to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777N or visit ccpg.org on behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas. Wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
All right, so what does this 1-point win over a quadrant 1 top 20 team in Vanderbilt mean for Missouri? By the way, before I get into that, Vanderbilt has never won in Columbia. I think that's pretty cool. That's an interesting stat, a stat I was surprised about. All right, what does this win do for Missouri in terms of making the tournament? That's what everybody wants to know. That's what is on everyone's mind. Bracketology. Let's start with the metrics. Net rankings. Missouri was at 65. They're up to 59 after this win, which is above California, West Virginia, bubble teams like that, but still behind bubble teams like USC, Seton Hall, TCU. VCU. it seems like the net rankings are the lowest on Missouri. KenPom has Missouri at 52, ahead of USC, ahead of USF South Florida, ahead of Virginia Tech, West Virginia. All those bubble teams they are ahead of. They are still behind TCU, Seton Hall, VCU on the in KenPom at 52. Torvik, let's see. I think they are 47 in Torvik. Let me pull this up to be sure. Golly, my allergies are going nuts right now. I'm sorry. They're 47 in Torvik, ahead of UCF, USC, TCU, Virginia Tech, Seton Hall, California, West Virginia. Ahead of all those bubble teams. They are still behind Georgia, UCLA, Auburn. So Torvik seems to be the highest on Missouri at 47. Bracketology. What does this do for bracketology? Joe Lunardi hasn't updated his for ESPN, but as we know, CBS Sports updates their bracketology pretty much daily. And this morning it was updated again. Missouri finds itself still as one of the last four teams in, playing in the first four matchup, this time against New Mexico. The other last four teams in are Santa Clara, VCU, New Mexico. The first four out are TCU, Auburn, Ohio State, and California. TCU, not a good week for them, but they're still hanging around. Auburn is really an interesting one because they have played. Missouri and Auburn have played, and it was a home game for Missouri, but they did win by 10 points. And Auburn now, they lost last night. I'll go over what the bubble teams did last night, but I'll spoil it and say Auburn lost. They're now 14-12 overall. I have a hard time imagining. Now, their schedule's tougher, and we know that. You know, they have a non-conference 1-point loss to Houston. They beat St. John's. They beat North Carolina State. All those teams they beat in non-conference. And their losses in non-conference are to really good opponents as well. Michigan, Houston, Arizona, like Purdue. They lost to some good teams non-conference. So their schedule is much tougher than Missouri. But Missouri's record is better. Missouri has the head-to-head. If Auburn was to get in over Missouri today, I think that would be really frustrating. Auburn has now lost, I think, I want to say 5 in a row. Like they're in a bad way. And it doesn't get any easier. They go to Lexington and they play Kentucky. So that'll be a tough game for them as well. So I think Missouri finds itself in a pretty decent spot in terms of the bubble. I talked about a website yesterday called teamrankings.com, which is a statistics website. I don't know where they get their statistics, so this might mean nothing. But yesterday, Missouri's percent chance at making the tournament was, I want to say 36. Today it is 63. So the win over Vanderbilt did a lot, if you ask that website. A piece of information to know. Ross Dellinger, who is a reporter, a college football reporter for Yahoo Sports, did some college basketball reporting. And we know that we've all heard the story about Alabama getting a player, Bediaku came back to Alabama. He was at Alabama for a time. Went to the NBA, like played in the G League, and then came back to Alabama, played a couple games, and then he was denied eligibility. So he played 3 games. Those 3 games were against Auburn, Texas A&M, and Missouri. Or he may have played more games than that, but those are the 3 wins Alabama had with Bediaku on the team: Auburn, Texas A&M, and Missouri. So Ross Dellinger reports that though it is no surprise, NCAA selection committee will consider that one of Auburn, Texas A&M, and Missouri's losses came against an Alabama team that used an ineligible player. So basically, the committee is not going to count the Alabama loss against Missouri, Auburn, or Texas A&M. I don't know how that works for Alabama. If those wins will continue to count, I'm not sure. But it is important to know that they will not be counted against Missouri. So essentially, that means Missouri is 18-17, and they are 8-4 in SEC play rather than 8-5. I think that's a big deal. I wonder if rankings websites are going to start to do that as well, and maybe that will improve Missouri's standing on some of them. But that is newsworthy to me. That is something that matters. Like that was a loss that Missouri lost that game by 26 points, and now the committee is not going to look at it. I think that's pretty important. So there you go. Let's see, what else do we have? I was thinking about something else just now. I guess basically I was saying I feel pretty good about where Missouri is now. They still have a lot of work to do. Again, this remaining schedule is tough. They go to Fayetteville to play Arkansas on Saturday at 3 o'clock on ESPN. That's a big game. Arkansas is so good. Might as well talk about this now. I was going to say this for later, but Arkansas played one of the best games you'll ever see in the SEC last night against Alabama. This was a double overtime game. It was incredible. So LeBaron Philon Jr. of Alabama scored 35 points on 11 of 21 shooting. Pretty good, right? Darius Acuff Jr., the freshman from Detroit at Arkansas, scored 49 points on 16 of 27 shooting, 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Was unbelievable in this game. This is one of the best games you'll ever see. 49 points for Darius Acuff, 35 points for LeBaron Philon Jr. Unbelievable. Alabama wins this game in double overtime at home. But this was a wild night in the SEC. There's more that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but Arkansas, the point of that being Arkansas is crazy good. Arkansas is really good, and playing in Fayetteville is going to be tough. I don't expect a ton. I think Missouri is capable of winning against a lot of the teams in the SEC if they play well. So we'll see, but Arkansas is good, and it's going to be a tough game. Then next week they host Tennessee. They travel to Mississippi State. And then the last week of the season, they host Oklahoma and then they travel to Oklahoma and then they host Arkansas to wrap the regular season up. So they have Arkansas, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Three games against opponents that are probably going to make the tournament. And then they have 2 road games against Mississippi State and Oklahoma, 2 teams they've already beaten, but like on the road, you never know. And then they play. Yeah, those are the 5 remaining games left. So it's going to be a very tough schedule for Missouri. But as of right now, I do think they're in a good spot. Jeez, my allergies are killing me today out of nowhere. All right, let's talk about the bubble, other teams on the bubble, what happened last night, what will happen tonight, and then I'll get out of here, let you guys be. Last night, there were a couple important games on the bubble. You had West Virginia versus Utah. You had USC versus Illinois. You had Missouri versus Vanderbilt. You had Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. You had Auburn versus Mississippi State. You had Seton Hall versus DePaul. So the first one here, I'm going to talk about USC versus Illinois. USC is one of those bubble teams that's in the range of Missouri. They were playing Illinois at home. Illinois beat them by 36 points. So that's one loss for a bubble team. USC loses to Illinois. Let's see what's next here. What's next we can talk about? It was West Virginia versus Utah. Right. Let's see if I can find that. Utah won this game. I know that. I'm trying to find the specifics. Utah won this game 61-56. This was at West Virginia, too, and West Virginia is really right around Missouri's range as well. This is not a great loss. Utah is 10-16. They're 2-11 in the Big 12. Again, this was in Morgantown. This is a very deflating loss for West Virginia's tournament hopes. Very deflating. So that's 2 positive wins in terms of Missouri. You had Utah beat West Virginia. You had Illinois beat USC. Obviously, Missouri beat Vanderbilt, which is the biggest part of this all. Texas A&M did beat Ole Miss, despite Ole Miss being up in this game and having opportunities to win this game. Texas A&M wins. Texas A&M, another kind of bubbly team. They get the win. Auburn versus Mississippi State. Like I already said, Auburn lost. Auburn lost this game. And thanks to Josh Hubbard's 46 points, another unbelievable performance. There's so many unbelievable performances in the SEC. Tyler Tanner of Vanderbilt had 27. Acuff had 49. LeBaron Philon Jr. had 35. Now you're talking about Josh Hubbard of Mississippi State leading the way with 46 points. I think he had 35 of them in the first half. Made 10 threes, 9 rebounds. Unreal. I cannot believe it. Thank you, Keyshawn Hall. Thank you, Josh Hubbard from Missouri fans for beating Auburn. Speaking of Keyshawn Hall, though, he also had 29 points on efficient shooting. Tahad Pettiford of Auburn also had 21. So just the performances in the SEC last night were unreal. But the important part of this is Mississippi State beat Auburn. And this game, I think, it was at Mississippi State. Lastly, the last one we'll talk about is Seton Hall at DePaul. DePaul at Seton Hall. Seton Hall is a bubble team. They lost to DePaul 69-57, which, again, puts a huge dent in their hopes. So overall, extremely positive night. Missouri beats Vanderbilt. Utah beats West Virginia. Illinois beats USC. Mississippi State beats Auburn. DePaul beats Seton Hall. The only one that didn't go their way is Texas A&M beating Ole Miss, and that almost went their way. Tonight, UCF plays Memphis. USF plays Memphis. USF is a bubble team. If Memphis can knock them off, that would be positive. That's all, though. That's all I have. Missouri back in action again on Saturday. We'll talk about that one soon. I appreciate everybody for being here. Missouri right in the thick of it here as March approaches rapidly. All right. That's all I have. Thanks for being here. See you guys soon.
365 Sports.